Across the animal kingdom, gifts are an integral part of the mating ritual. And now one website is cutting straight to the give and take, connecting broke college girls with rich older men to trade their youth and beauty for cash and prizes. So, is it prostitution or a brutally honest search for happiness?
I mean, it's sex work. This is sex work, by the way. This is not anything but sex work, which, you know, good shit. This is basically more ethical almost in some ways than like just dating a rich old dude and being like, oh, I'm doing it for the love of it when you fucking clearly aren't. You know what I mean? At least there's like a monetary compensation here when, you know, they're basically saying like, hey, give me money and we'll go on dates and I'll simulate dating for you. Right? Whereas like what? The fucking, you think like the 25-year-old model that's like dating fucking the 85-year-old dude, hoping that he fucking croaks so she can cash in. You think that lady loves the fucking 85-year-old dude? Get the fuck out of here. There's no issue with this. I'm saying like as far as sex work goes, I'm not gonna fucking shit on sex work. I mean, it's sex work. This is sex work, by the way. This is not anything but sex work, which, you know, good shit.
Working at all is not something that any animal is built to do. Working at all is not something that any animal is built to do, or meant to do, or wants to do. Nobody chooses labor. Nobody chooses work. All other animals don't work unless we force them to, but all other animals are free. We're not. We, under capitalism, are forced to work, and every need that we have, we are forced to work in order to provide for that need. If we don't work, our only option is starvation.
Most of the people that criticize sex work criticize it on anti-capitalist terms, but more often than not, they're not criticizing the work itself. They're just criticizing the sex part of the work itself. Are you really ignoring the use of pornography as a patriarchal capitalization and mercantilization of women? Also ignoring the history of sexual enslavement of women as sexual workforce? Cancel all work. What did I tell you? Cancel all fucking work. Inherently, all work is enslavement. Okay? If you're still having a convo, you know, sex workers are criminals and or are doing something that is bad, then we can't even get to the enthusiastic versus unenthusiastic consent. That we're not there yet. We're still in the entry level. But why do people make sex work such as OnlyFans that show out to be something we should seek to help them out of? I would literally much rather live off on OnlyFans than McDonald's. I don't get why it's demonized still so much. I don't get it either. And also, if the problem was exploitation, we would not be having this conversation around OnlyFans. Like, you can maybe say that about big porn studios. You can say that about porn agents. You can say that about managers in porn. But like when you get to OnlyFans, that's literally another additional layer removed. So it's straight the fuck up. Workers seizing the means of production for themselves.
Thought I would film this video now as it's when I'm feeling raw emotion. I know this is going to be a hard one to do because I don't really act negative, and even now it just feels really stupid and weird, and I don't really know why I'm filming this video. People are not going to give a fuck. So let's just talk into what I'm actually freaking talking about here. About maybe let's say a month ago, I posted some videos of me in an outfit that I didn't really think much of. Feeling myself today, do a little TikTok, and it sort of did well, and then I posted it on Instagram and it did even more well, and as a result of that I got a bit of a male audience. I gained like 10k in a week because of these people watching me. I try and steer away from that sort of thing on TikTok and Instagram, like not really trying to be a sexual object on them platforms, but apparently that's what I've become on everything. I started getting a lot of comments from these videos when I was like feeling myself and doing all these cute dances or whatever. They were not very nice, and at the time I didn't really care because I was like, oh my god, look at all these views, oh my god, look at me growing, like I didn't really give a frick. It's got a little bit worse, and last night is when I was just really had enough of it. I don't want to be an object like this. I don't know if it sounds really stupid and I'm like being really stupid, but I mean, I get a lot of abuse on OnlyFans anyway. With like, that is normal. Nothing I'm showing you is that's what I'm talking about, because I expect it. This is the other side to it, which people don't necessarily talk about. When I did my TikTok about moving into the apartment, there was people commenting the exact building name. Maybe that's my fault for putting it online and whatever, but I don't know, recently it's just got a bit more aggressive from a male audience, sort of like pushing me. I'm just pretty numb to it at this point. But I don't want an Instagram where my questions are, oh, have you ever given a blowjob? And I don't want to be stalked. I didn't ask to be stalked. I mean, I know I do an OnlyFans, people just be like, well, this is your fault for advertising yourself as a sexual object. But I'm not though. I'm a human, and it gets to you when it's like going on for ages. I was just so numb to it. I thought, oh, this is fun. It's not fun. A friend messaged me that I just know from Instagram. She was like, oh, I did OnlyFans for like a week, but I couldn't take it because of all the abuse that you get. I'm not even gonna go into the abuse on OnlyFans because that's just expected. Like on my YouTube comments the other day, everyone like, oh, her OnlyFans is shit. Like, comment on my YouTube. Like, can you not? Really, I started posting things that were gaining attention. At the time I sort of done it for that purpose. I deleted a couple of photos on my Instagram last night that don't exactly bring the attention that I want, but a photo that I like, which would be like an outfit post where you can't see no cleavage or no arse, like, doesn't do well, and I've been losing because of that. Losing followers and shit, but I'm just so sick of fucking caring about that shit, and I didn't used to, and now it's fucking ruining me.
The mythology of the post-Bernie Sanders left wing is not dangerous because it's absurd. It's not dangerous because it's ridiculous. It's not dangerous because it's easy for people like me to point and laugh or sit here and explain to you the ways in which it's bad and misleading and wrong. It's dangerous because it's appealing. It's dangerous because it provides people with excuses and rationalizations for their bad habits. And none of it is going to last. My father was a hardcore communist extremist. But even within the decades I knew him, I could see his faith in different aspects of the left-wing ideology wavered. Some things he'd believed as a young man became unbelievable to him. When he was younger and before I was born, he really believed that work was the most meaningful thing in life, that it transformed you as a human being. And of course, there was nothing more important than having the credentials of being working class. This is going to sound messed up, but like, my father was proud that he had gotten a job on a toll bridge, collecting the coins for the toll. He was proud that his mother had worked in a factory, and like within the Communist Party, within the far left, these were like credentials that he was like a blue collar guy despite having a university education. All these really crummy jobs. He worked in a fish and chip shop. Like, what the worst jobs he had in his life, he was wearing this like a badge of honor. He tried to be a labor union organizer, like all these people. Back then, he had a long beard and looked like a hippie, and apparently he was emaciated, which I can believe. I've never seen a photograph of him those days because he wasn't eating properly, and God, he already had 6 kids or something. He was poor for reasons that were largely his own fault. But anyway, there's this hippie with 6 kids and university education going around trying to present himself as working class. So, there was a really toxic pro-work ideology that was part of his life, right? And he grew out of it. His faith in it didn't last because it couldn't last. Now, it's very strange for me now to sit here and look at Hasan, sit here and look at Kristen Leo, and the pendulum has gone to the opposite extreme. There's this anti-work ideology, right? My older brothers, again, this is before I was born, they were told by my father, like, work is the only thing that matters in life. It transforms you. Education doesn't matter. Travel doesn't matter. Like going to Egypt or something to see the pyramids doesn't matter. What matters is getting this working class, blue collar work, working on a construction site, being a bricklayer, mixing cement. This is the idealized work, right? And it's not even that it makes you a real man. That's easy. I don't know. Maybe you spend enough time on a construction site. Maybe, whatever. You build up calluses in your hands. You get forearm strength. I don't know. No. This makes you part of the vanguard. This makes you part of the working class. This means that when the revolution comes, they won't kill you first, right? Like, this is part of a deeply violent ideology that, like, World War III is coming the day after tomorrow, and then the same kind of massacres and purges that Lenin and Stalin and Mao Zedong engaged in are going to happen. And if you don't have your credentials that you used to be a construction worker or used to work at a fish and chip shop where my father's fucking excuse was, you're going to be one of the people who's facing the guillotine. You're going to be one of the people hanging from the neck by a lamppost. So get your blue collar working class credentials now. So this is partly an ideology based on fear. And it's partly an ideology, yes, based on frankly, a very Catholic view of work and labor. It's one of the reasons why communism in a country like Cuba, South America, has a different character than it does in Japan, say. Japan has its own history of communism. And when I was a kid, I got to see my father's belief in that just dying year by year. And when it finally came time that I was entering the workforce, I got my credentials together and I started going to job interviews, and I was applying to get jobs in construction. And the type of work I could get, I tried, by the way, I looked at getting your formal license to be a bricklayer. As I recall, the first license you get is just to be a trainee bricklayer, actually being like a craftsman in the bricklayer. It takes years or whatever. But, I was going to get that certificate, and the work I could get right away was on a demolition crew, going around with a pick, breaking up concrete, throwing chunks of concrete on the back of it. That's the lowest level of work you can get. And I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3". Back then, too, I could do 200 push-ups a day or whatever I was doing at the time. I was big, I was healthy, and I was ready to do it. And at that point, by the way, I had absolutely zero engagement with communism. I was not left-wing at all anymore, but obviously I was raised to be left-wing from early childhood. And my father just couldn't do it. He couldn't let me enter the workforce that way. He did everything in his power to stop me from going to work on a construction site. He just freaked out. And he had nothing intellectual to say about it, and nothing political. And I could even say to him, I could stand there in a detached way and be like, but this is your philosophy. You devoted yourself. He was pro-Stalin, pro-Mao. He was not a moderate communist. This is your religion, right? It was. It didn't last, right? Everything he found believable as a young man became unbelievable, became laughable, became despicable to him in old age. He found, even examining his own life, of course, what was really meaningful to him it wasn't these kinds of Joe jobs. That's where it wasn't work in that sense. What was meaningful to him in life, sure, partly what he did in his leisure, in education, partly it was literally going on vacation to Egypt and seeing the pyramids, going to Africa and seeing zebras. What he actually valued, he figured out, was bourgeois. This current anti-work ideology, all right, it's not going to last. But for as long as it does last, it's going to provide really dangerous justifications for decisions people are making that have terrible long-term decisions. And I know it's real. I know there are young men who are going to go and have sex with prostitutes. And they're going to feel they have their left-wing morality stamp of approval to go and do it. And they were looking for one excuse or another, right? But just think about it. There were young men who are coming on the internet now, and they're listening to Sam Harris, and they're listening to the new atheists, and they're thinking, gee, the only reason their parents are opposed to prostitution is because they're, they've got starched shirts and come out of a conservative church background, and they're not hip atheist left-wingers like you and I who know that sex work is the most liberating thing imaginable. They're going to be young men who go out there and become Johns, and in many ways, that is going to change their lives forever. And there are young women who are signing up to do OnlyFans, signing up to do pornography on the internet, signing up to turn tricks, signing up to be sex workers of one kind or another, and it's going to change their life forever. This ideology won't last. Its impacts on real people's lives will.